Hi, how are we today? Thank you for joining us once again for Suffolk Handicrafts, brought to you by Suffolk Public Library. Today we are making this lovely throw pillow, nice and festive for the holiday season. This is actually a removable piece here in the middle, so you can have just like a simple plain red satin pillow, or you can make it into a little bow shape for the holidays or for any kind of gift-giving time. So let's get right into it. So the supplies that you'll need for this project are the pillow base, obviously, and our fabric that we will be working with. Today we are going to do the very daunting thing of attempting to work with satin. That's why we're going to be keeping the pattern itself quite simple. With satin, you really want to be keeping your pattern simple because it itself can be a quite tricky fabric to work with. So we're going to be challenging ourselves to work with satin, but keeping our pattern fairly simple. And then, our thread that we'll have in a corresponding color. Always, if you're going to be using fabric shears, you want to make sure they are sharp as possible. Also, if you have it available, a rotary cutter might do you a little bit better. I have fabric shears here, but for your purposes, if you've got a rotary cutter, it might even do you a little better for cutting this. We will also be using a sewing machine today, so we will discuss the settings that we will be doing, and if you do not have a sewing machine at home, here's your gentle reminder that the Suffolk Public Library has sewing machines that you can check out, so feel free to take a look at our website, request a sewing machine. You can take that home with you and attempt to do this project. Alright, and the last thing is you'll need something to hold your pattern pieces together because, again, satin can be very slippery. If you have wonder clips or some kind of clips, that will do very well, just because satin can pick up pin marks very easily and they don't really disappear like they do on other fabrics. You can make regular pins work, but we'll show you how to pin them in a very specific way so that you stay kind of within your seam allowance with your pinning and you don't end up with a bunch of holes in your finished pillowcase. So let's get started, and we'll talk about how to prep our workspace, again, all so that we don't ruin this lovely fabric that we're going to be working with, because it can be a little tricky. Here's our lovely satin for today. Again, you can actually see some of these lines and creases here. We'll be attempting to press some of them up, but we'll do so very gently. Again, that's another of the tricky things working with satin is amongst some of the things is you want to be very delicate when you're pressing it. It's not like a cotton or a polyester, as you can't just go in with your iron or your steamer and just press it really easily. With satin, you want to be very delicate. You'll actually go in on the back of the fabric. You can see one side will be much duller and less shiny than your other side, and you'll want to press on that side, and it might even be a little bit handy for you to have an extra fabric, just some loose cotton that you have around. A t-shirt even would work if you just have an extra t-shirt laying around the house that you can use as something in between your fabric and your iron. And the big thing is that you do not want to have any moisture or oils. You want your workspace to be very clean. You want to be introducing no moisture, because satin can be very easily stained by water. If you've ever had anything that's satin and then you drip water or a little bit of water on it, it can get a little messy, and you'll get your water stains on it. The version that we are doing today, we will be able to hand wash it after after, but you want it to look as nice as possible when you finish it, and you don't want to have to immediately take it and have to fix it right away. So we are going to do our very best and keep our workspaces clean and dry and free of snags, because we don't want any snagging or pulling, and the same goes for our hands as well. We don't want any excess moisture or lotion even, because it can do the same thing with oils. No like loose hangnails or anything to like potentially snag on the fabric. So it will be a challenge. If anybody here has not worked with satin before, this will be a good opportunity to try it for your first time. And if it doesn't work out, you will have tried something new, and you will have challenged yourself. And that is, worth it in itself, right? And if it does work out, then you've challenged yourself and you've conquered it. All right. So for our main body, this is, it's even off the screen a bit, but our main body, what you're getting, the fabric that you're getting will constitute the front and back panels of a main body of a pillowcase, as well as a piece that you will trim off the edge to create a middle sash piece. And you'll see that in the pattern, that the sort of pattern descriptor piece that is in your kit. So the first thing that we'll do is we'll just cut our fabric, and again we're going to be doing that as gently and as carefully as we can with the sharpest scissors that we have available. If you have pinking shears, or if you have a rotary cutter, extra points to you, and I encourage you to use them. So another technique that a lot of people use when working with satin or any fabric that frays quite easily is to cut on the bias, which simply means taking your pattern and working diagonally, cutting it diagonally from the way that the fabric warp and weft is, the weave of the fabric, working it diagonally. We're trying to get as many different, we're trying to really maximize our fabric use here. So what we are going to do instead is just widen our seam allowance a little bit. And that's another technique that we can use. So we will just have a little bit of an extra large seam allowance. If you're used to working with a quite small one, we're just going to be doing a little bit larger one just to make sure that we keep everything within the space. And again, we're going to be pinning within our seam allowance. We really want to stay inside of that. And again, we're going to obviously pinning right sides together, and of course this means that we're going to be having our slipperiest sides together. And I am going to try and be as sparing as possible, as sparing as I trust the fabric to stick, to stay together, to hold, just so that we don't get too many pulls or points of tension, or too many potential marks in our fabric. So you shouldn't take too much time pinning, but just when you do this, if you're used to pinning horizontally or pinning perpendicular to how you would put this seam through the machine, we're going to instead be doing it like this, just so that we can keep all of our pinholes inside of the seam and hopefully keep it from having any kind of holes in our final product. So I'm currently pinning our sort of middle sash piece, since this will be a nice quick one to show you. And this is just going to be a little, it's just going to be seams all around the four sides, and then we'll be just adding the snaps on either end so that we can snap it in the middle so that it can be removed if you want just a simple plain cover, or added if you want it to have that bow shape, since it can essentially cinch in the middle. It's like a belt to cinch the waist of our pillow that we'll be making today. So yeah, we're just pinning around the edges, trying not to stab ourselves, and failing as always. And remember to pin inside your seam allowance, and remember to give yourself quite a generous seam allowance here, just so that we have, a bit of room to breathe with this fabric that is going to make things as difficult as it can for us. We need to make things as easy as we can for ourselves. Alright, so we are going to be looking at our sewing machine here and just taking a quick look at some of the settings that we have. Firstly, we need to make sure that we've got it threaded. I recommend just going ahead and changing your needle, making sure that it's nice and fresh. I would say one of your smaller, lighter needles, something between 60 and 90, one of your finer, lighter needles, certainly not anything heavy duty, because that will leave just those larger holes in the fabric. So feel free to go ahead and change that needle right before you get started so that it's as sharp as it absolutely can be. We're going to be doing a pretty low tension, just so that we don't get too much puckering or pulling on the fabric, but we are going to be doing a pretty short stitch length. And so we can go ahead and get started. Alright, so now that we have our middle sash sewn, we are going to be sewing some of the middle hems for the back panels. So our two back panels, much like our regular pillow sham, we aren't going to be doing any fastening or anything. We're just going to create two hems in the middle that will then overlap and attach to our front single panel. So we're going to cut our large back panel in half, hem up the two center lines, and then we will attach those the front piece to the two back panels. So I'm just going to get started with hemming my two sides of my back panel, and then we will attach the front, and we will have our pillow sham. So again, you'll see me, I'll show you this one going through. We'll go ahead and do this with a zigzag stitch, and again we're doing a pretty generous seam allowance here, just to really make sure that we really get what we need. turn the machine on. Alright, so we have our hems on the insides of these. Just to differentiate, I did top stitch on the inside of this one just so that we can see the difference between our two panels here. This one I'm going to have on my inside. And then you're just going to layer over just slightly, just a slight overlap of your two back panels. And then when you lay out your top panel, as always, we are going to pin them right sides together. But since we are actually not going to create a closed piece, our two back panels are going to allow us to flip it inside out. So we will be able to stitch all four sides completely enclosed, and we won't have to leave room like you typically leave room to flip your piece inside out. We actually won't need to do that for this piece. We'll be able to stitch all the way around and then flip out just using this regular opening, because we are just going to leave this. This is where the pillow will go in, but we'll also be able to use it to actually flip our piece in. So we're just going to pin around the outside and sew up our four edges all the way around, and then we will be done with our pillowcase. Alright, so now that you have your final sham, it should look something like this. Again, you're welcome to overlap your pieces a bit more. That's the back. This is your front. It should just be nice plain. And then your middle sash is just a tube of fabric. So we'll finally do the stuffing here. And what we have currently is really just a regular sized pillow. So you can actually fold it in half and it should fit a bit better, giving you a little bit fuller of a little throw pillow, and then you can just tuck in here. And now, if you just wanted, something for the, without a bow shape, you could leave it as is. But if you want your bow shape, you take your middle piece, your sash, and you'll tighten it and you cinch it in the middle. Alright, and now that we're all done, as you can see, when I've put my middle sash on, it's a bit tight of a fit. When you make yours, you may choose to, instead of doubling up your final, your middle piece, to just hem it instead, and to make it a bit longer instead. It's entirely up to you. But yeah, we're quite pleased with it. There are a few different ways that you can explore how to attach this. I just made this I just sewed my loop and made it a loop of fabric and slid it on the end. You're welcome to add snaps or buttons onto the back to make them removable that way. Entirely up to you and your project. But yeah, here's our final piece. As a reminder, supply kits, a limited number of supply kits are available for pickup. first come, first serve at both the Morgan Memorial and North Suffolk libraries. So I do encourage you to, if you're inspired, if you're interested in testing this project out for yourself, to go grab those. And if you don't have a sewing machine at home, to also request a sewing machine, since this will be made much, much easier by the use of one of those. And enjoy your holiday season. All right. Bye-bye.